Greg, we talked about a lot, man, but you had just got off of an episode of Bro Code Community Spotlight, and we highlighted you. Exclusively produced by Bro Code TV Productions. Tell the people about your experience.
Well, I've had the opportunity to do a few of these interviews, and I don't want to give you guys a big head, but this has been by far the most fun. You guys are awesome. I love the questions. I so appreciate the obvious research that you've done to study the show and then to bring in aspects of not just the show, but my faith and background and all that. And I love the name Broco too, because I've got two brothers, and beyond that, bro has a lot of connotations to it, but one of the connotations is just people you'd love to hang out with. So this is my first time meeting you, but I'd love it if we ever have the chance to hang out again. You guys are great. You guys are a lot of fun.
Appreciate it, man. Hey, look, if you ain't nothing but a plane ticket away, Bro Smith and I would love to ride to Cali, do some behind the scenes for season 2 of Shadrach.
There you go.
Put that in the atmosphere, Greg.
All right.
I love it, brother. Appreciate you again, man.
Welcome to Community Spotlight, brought to you by Bro Code TV Productions and hosted by the Bros. Join us on this dynamic journey as we shine the spotlight on local agents who are making a profound difference in their communities. These remarkable individuals bring creativity, wellness, and purpose to the forefront as they tackle challenges, nurture their families, and celebrate successes. In each episode, we explore their unique stories and initiatives, offering an inspiring glimpse into the world of community transformation. Get ready to be inspired by those who are leaving an undeniable mark on their neighborhoods.
What up, good people? It's your boy, Bro Troy, back for an exclusive episode of the Bro Code Show, produced exclusively by Bro Code TV Productions. This one's a little different, as you can see. Tonight, we're taking it back. Yes, that's right. We're going back to Cali. The last time we took it back to this journey, we were international, man. You remember that, Jay? Oh, yeah, man. It was almost 3 years ago. We were talking to Meg Cohen, sex therapist from down under in Australia. Shout out to Meg Cohen. That was the first time we said vagina multiple times on air. Yeah, we were feeling a certain type of way, right? Right on StreamYard. Yeah, man, that was like 3-4 years ago, bro. We're back at it. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tonight we have a special treat for you. Recording this show from California, we have Greg Allan Martin. That's right, the man with 3 first names. Greg Allan Martin is a powerful and commanding presence. He's an actor, and his on-screen presence is both powerful and commanding. It is set to shine as a series regular, playing a rugged rancher in the upcoming Sony-affirmed original series, Shadrach. Known for his versatility, Martin has wowed audience in diverse roles: a redneck boat owner opposite Jason Bateman in Ozark, an irascible cancer patient with Katie Seagal in Rebel, a wealthy socialite experimenting with LSD and Mad Men, an arrogant surgeon in The Resident and Heartbeat. He also played 2 years as Dr. Noah in The Young and the Restless, and also a professional football coach in the popular Madden NFL video game. Welcome to the show, the Bro Code Show, Community Spotlight, Greg Allan Martin. Greg, what's happening, sir? How you doing, sir?
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that introduction, but I got to say I'm already intimidated because I can't imagine if there's anything that I could say that's going to be as interesting as your interview with a sex therapist.
Hey, Greg, that was pretty interesting, man. We did, man. She was in Australia. I think it was what, Sunday night here, Monday morning there. Yeah, it was different, bro. But we're going to try. We're going to have some fun doing it too, bro. So, hey, how's it feeling in Cali right now?
Great. Lovely weather here, actually down in Newport Beach, and couldn't be better. Really blessed to be here.
Yeah, man. So we connected with your PR consultant, Steve. Shout out to Steve. About a month ago, man. Steve was excited about getting you on the Bro Code Show platform to tell your story. We look forward to talking more about growing up in Little Rock, playing football at Vanderbilt, graduating from Harvard Law School, and also working as a district attorney in LA. as well as your passion for theatrical productions in your acting career. But first, we want to have a little fun, Greg. So we have this segment called Would You Rather Questions. You ready?
All right.
All right, brother. It's okay. Remember, we over here trying to get to the sex therapy height. So you got to rock with me here, Greg. Okay. Would you rather swim in an Olympic-sized pool with a gold medalist or perform in a theatrical production written by your favorite playwright?
Okay, well, that's easy in one respect, but there's a little twist there. Perform in the theatrical production, of course, but I did grow up as a swimmer, as did both of my brothers. And I got to throw this in. My older brother, so funny you mentioned this, he is and has been for a very long time the fastest swimmer his age in the world. He has world records in the freestyle sprints. So I do have an affinity.
In the world?
In the world. He just went yet another meet and broke another national record. So he's pretty amazing.
Well, by the time the world sees this, the Olympics will have already passed. So I might as well ask, man, what is your take, man? Was there anything that you had to watch? What has been your take so far on watching the games over in Paris?
Oh, a couple of things I just watched in the last couple of days. I mean, that 100-meter dash final.
Come on.
Unbelievable. And I've never seen one that 5 1,000ths of a second. And the interesting thing about it is just, it's one of those things where Noah Lyles, he won because of the rules. If you look at the photo finish, 2 of the other runners, the Jamaican and I think the other American, their feet crossed the line first. But because it's the torso, that's what counts. He got the lean. So that was pretty incredible. And then the pole vaulter, Swedish pole vaulter, I think, Duplantis, breaking a world record. He's phenomenal. I just love watching people who are at the absolute peak of their talents and in the best in the world. It's amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing, brother. I love it. I love it. Would you rather master the art of fencing for a historical film role or become a scratch golfer?
That's a tough one because the film that's there, but my golf game is not very good. It's like my dad used to say. I'd ask my dad, "What's your handicap?" And he'd go, "Well, my handicap is that I stand too close to the ball after I hit it." So that's kind of the way I am. So I'd love to be a scratch golfer.
Yeah. I knew that one would be pretty tough for you. So I was wondering which one you were going to go with there. Do you have a course that was just magical for you? Like one that you just remember that was like, wow, that was an experience. Going back to the homestead, there is a course about 30 minutes outside of Little Rock, Arkansas, called the Alotian. That my older brother works for a big investment bank back there, and some of the older partners in that firm built that club out there, and it is spectacularly gorgeous. Rolling hills, you see a lake in the background. It's just the prettiest course I've ever been on. Wow. Back in Little Rock, huh?
Yeah, outside of Little Rock. And the good thing is I take so many strokes to play around, I really get to enjoy the entire course.
You got plenty of time. Good stuff. Would you rather travel the world to visit famous theaters or swim in the most exotic beaches?
Wow. Probably swim at the beaches. I do love swimming, and I do love beautiful beaches. Yeah.
Do you have one that sticks out to you? Is there one that was like, wow, that was pretty dope?
I do remember going to one in Ixtapa, Mexico once that was just spectacular. A little cove, and the body surfing was incredible.
Yeah, good stuff. And last one, would you rather spend a day training with a Navy SEAL or play a tennis match with the Grand Slam champion?
Tennis match, because I think that one, as bad as I'd get beaten, at least I would live through the experience.
Yeah, that's smart, man. Yeah, indeed. There you have it. Would you rather questions with Greg Allan Martin.
That's great.
So talk to me about the landscape of Little Rock when you were growing up there. Like, what did the household look like? How were those high school years? And how did young Greg Allan Martin, what did he dream about?
Well, when I was a kid in Little Rock, I had two brothers, mom and dad, very, middle class existence. Didn't have a ton of money, but didn't want for anything, and certainly didn't know that I wanted for anything. But went to the local high school, local public high school there, and Little Rock Hall High School. My dad was a very good athlete. He was from a very small town in Arkansas, Austin, Arkansas, and but he was a great athlete, and he instilled that in us, along with the importance of being a good student. I'll get back to that. But we played multiple sports: football, basketball, baseball. As I mentioned before, we were into swimming, played a little tennis, played a little golf, and that was our life. But Dad always said, your grades come first, and he was very adamant about that. And that played a big role into where I decided to go to college. I wanted to play football in college, but I also wanted to go to the best combination of academics and athletics that I could go to. And that it wasn't too far from home. And that turned out to be Vanderbilt. And it was a terrific choice. Even though we didn't have great football teams while I was there, I still will never regret that decision. And I loved being a student athlete at Vanderbilt.
Awesome. So I was going to ask you how the love of education really was instilled to you, but it sounds like that came from your rearing your father, and making sure that was a first. Yes, football was a love, but education was a first.
Yeah, absolutely. Both my mom and my dad. We wouldn't have played sports if we had let our grades slip or our attention to our schoolwork slip. That just wasn't an issue. So that was always the first question. Was not, how was practice today, but it was, how was school today? How'd you do on that test? How were your grades?
Yeah, always checking in, man. It's so important. I love to hear it. If I'm hearing you correctly, Vanderbilt came into play because it was close to home.
Yeah, again, close to home and a great combination of academics and athletics.
Academics, yeah. But you didn't stop there, man. You went to Vanderbilt, played football, and then you went to Harvard Law, right? Well, how did that come into play? What was the decision behind that? Was Vanderbilt just not enough, and you were like, hey, man, we got to level up? What was that all about?
I knew that I always wanted to pursue a graduate degree. And my older brother, who I've talked about before, he's 2 years older, and I always kind of followed in his footsteps. He played football at Vanderbilt 2 years ahead of me, so we got to play on the same team, which was wonderful. But he went to business school. He went to actually Harvard and Stanford business schools. So it was a point where I would go, I got to do something a little bit different. But also the idea of law school was just more compelling to me. I felt like the arena of law just had more to do with justice and morality and ethics. And I kind of had this feeling that business school is just, and I'm being very stereotypical here, but it seemed to me that was just more about money. And I just wanted to have something that spoke a little bit more to my heart. So that was my idea in going to law school.
Okay. So not just any law school, right? I mean, you could have went anywhere, but it sounds like your brother, your parents, and you had supporters that made sure that those aspirations weren't left in a space of mediocrity. That you really gave your all, and if you're going to do it, you did it with your all and your gusto. And it speaks volume to, and it sounds as if like those same characteristics just continue to just follow you. And now here you are in this law space. You graduate from Harvard Law School and start working at the DEA's office in Las Vegas. Is that right?
Los Angeles. Yeah.
I'm Las Vegas. Yeah. In LA. Yeah. I was trying to put you out there in Vegas. See? Yeah, absolutely. In LA, man. And for 25 years, over 25 years.
Yeah. Well, it's a natural progression for a lot of law school students, especially at a bigger, so-called elite law school, to go into the big law firms and do corporate law and make a ton of money. And I worked for a couple of those firms during the summers while I was in law school. and thought that I might go that route, but I was just bored. Again, it just didn't really appeal to me. And the course that had spoken more to me when I was in law school was criminal law. Again, because of the issues and the moral decisions and the idea of justice. So that's why I wanted to go into criminal law. I wanted to go into the DA's office, and it was more than that. I have, going back to my dad being there at every practice, every game, that sort of thing.
Wow.
I knew by going into the DA's office, I would be able to have a lifestyle, less money by far, but being able to be there for my kids and coach them and kids be there for everything.
Yeah, it sounds like home is really important to you, family, right? Words
Absolutely.
Matter. And then using that same energy in that space. I want to dig a little deeper. My grandfather, man, he lived to be 101, Greg. Really wise man. He played a pivotal role in my upbringing. And I could talk for days, similar to how you could talk about your father. But he always said, man, it feels good to do good. Like at 12th grade, I said it out of respect. I said, yes, sir. But at 44, man, I can honestly say, as the young people would say, it hits a little different. And it does feel good to do good. It does feel good to put things back into the world in good energy. Talk to me about that feeling, the most rewarding times that you had fighting for justice as a DA in LA.
Okay. Let me give you a little bit broader perspective on it. I remember the day my first day in the DA's office. There were a group of us in my class, probably 12 of us who were in that class. They had just admitted, and we were meeting with Gil Garcetti, who was the DA at that time. And I'll never forget what he said to us on that first day. He said, from this moment on, you have both the privilege and the responsibility of doing what is right. And I love that, and I carried that with me all the way through. Even more importantly, what I carried with me was, I talked about my family growing up, but also I grew up in the, quote, Christian home. My parents were pillars in the local Methodist church there, and they instilled in me that faith, which grew over time. We can talk more about that if you guys want to. But absolutely. What I carried into the DA's office was my favorite verse. And I had it on my desk, which is Micah 6:8. For what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your Lord? And those three components I tried to put into place during every case, during every interaction in the DA's office. Do justice, because that's what I was there for. That was my job, to make sure that justice was served. But to carry also a spirit of mercy. There are times when you needed to be merciful. You needed to understand what was going on in the lives of these offenders. And also to be humble, that more than anything, is to realize that I'm not God. I can't play.
Yeah. Man, I appreciate you sharing that. I really do. We've had the privilege here on Broco TV Productions to produce many shows. And one of the shows that we produced here is Blurred Lines. And on that show, it actually talks a little bit more about that gray area between politics and religion. And one of the episodes we had was North Carolina Supreme Court Justice Mike Morgan. And we were actually in the North Carolina Supreme Court Justice filming. Wow. Yeah, wow. I said the same thing, man. I've been in plenty of courtrooms, Greg.
Wow.
I've been in that, especially not for that reason, right? So it felt good, right? It felt good to be on that side, if you may, right? To tell the stories of those being untold. But I got to ask you, like how confident, and well, it's reassuring to hear your confidence of bringing your faith, right? And what you believe in that moral compass into that courtroom and allowing it to be your guiding compass. Like talk to me a little bit more. You said earlier about your faith, but how important is that to you, and how did it become important to you?
Oh, it's, the most important thing in my life, clearly. When I was growing up, as I said, Christian home, but it wasn't very overt in the household. My dad, strong, very moral, ethical guy. They went to church every Sunday, and we prayed before meals, but there wasn't Bible study in the home. We didn't talk about it a lot. It was just kind of who we were. And when I got into high school, got more involved in Young Life, and then in college, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, this amazing organization. And it wasn't until I got to law school. Now, you mentioned about Harvard Law School. I still think to this day, I was just the token Arkansan they let in that year, because the people there were so smart, very intimidating. And I'm not proselytizing about my faith, but you get to know people and you know where they come from. And so I never hid the fact that I was a Christian there. And there were, of course, other Christians there. But among my group of closest friends there, the 12 or 15 that I became very close to, I was probably the only Christian. And we would have these discussions. And it was the first time that I was sort of challenged, and not in a condemning way. Boy, don't I long for those times when people could have those kind of conversations from different sides and be respectful and want to really hear why you think the way, instead of just being attacking. That's a whole nother issue. But they would say, tell me more about this. Why do you feel that way? And so for the first time, I started thinking, wow, do I believe this just because it's what I grew up with? Is this a cultural thing? Right. If I had grown up without this, would I not believe it? And so it forced me to start going, okay, I got to explore this more. I need to study this more. So I remember specifically, Josh McDowell coming to the campus, not at Harvard, but at Vanderbilt. So I started reading Evidence That Demands a Verdict. I started reading apologetics. And long story short, I became so convinced of the truth of what I had been taught. And it was so comforting, but empowering, because now I felt like this is not something I had to just defend and go, well, it's kind of what I grew up with. It was like, no, I believe this is true. And if you want to know why, I'll tell you why. I believe it's historical. I believe it's scientific. I believe it makes sense in this world. It makes sense of who I am and where I came from. So that really, it was ironic that Harvard Law School bolstered and solidified my faith.
I love that. I appreciate it. I always say there's a difference between believing and knowing. Paul said, I'm confident in this. And I believe in that word and that statement alone. It was a culmination of all of his experiences, both indirectly and indirectly, right? Where he saw, here's an individual that was a persecutor and now is helping those same people that he once persecuted. Right. So yeah, man, I'm thankful to hear that. And I'm also encouraged, right? As a believer, to hear that you are able to do that and walk and stand in that boldly. People sometimes forget Jesus won't no punk. So yes, there is time for both the lamb and the lion.
Exactly.
So thank you for that. I appreciate you sharing. Indeed. When we come back from the break shortly, we'll dive into your acting career and your upcoming projects. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit more about theater productions. Like, you've performed in over 25 productions, to include the classic To Kill a Mockingbird. Talk to me more about your passions in this area, how you landed your favorite role as Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird, and some of your grandest experience during your theater moments.
Yeah, well, I started doing theater back probably in junior high, doing church plays. And it was always just a fun hobby. I just love doing it, the aspect of performing, and especially with plays that are beautifully, profoundly written. And so while I was I didn't have time to do it while I was in college, because it was playing college football and studying was very, very consuming. But when I got to law school, we had this little amateur drama society in law school, and they are still operating now. Every year they would do parodies of big movies that were out at the time. And my first year there was when Superman had just debuted the year before. So we did this whole parody written by law students, the music performed by law students. So I got to play, it was called Supraman, which is a joke on a legal term. But anyway, I did it in law school. And then when I got in the DA's office, after a period of time where I began to have a little bit more time in my schedule, I decided to go back into theater to pursue my other passion. And there's a professional Christian theater company at Hollywood Presbyterian Church, a famous old church right in the heart of Hollywood, called the Actors Co-op, that I joined, and I ended up doing about 25 plays with them. And as you mentioned, the favorite, of course, being a Southerner, being an attorney, was getting the chance to play Atticus Finch. I mean, that's a dream come true.
Yeah, I could only imagine, man. Only imagine. Well, when we come back, we're going to hear more about Greg's passion for acting, how he approaches new roles, the impact acting has made on his life personally, and his upcoming new role in TV series Shadrach. We'll be right back on the Bro Code Show Community Spotlight with Greg Allan Martin.
We can't afford to stay here, and we could get a house near my parents for next to nothing.
I miss my friends. I miss my old life.
Heavenly Lord, we're grateful to be together. Amen.
Amen.
There's no cell service here.
Will you look at that? We got ourselves a fine-looking horse in the yard.
I like animals.
You like videos of animals.
Come on out, kids.
What's Shadrach doing here?
Your Paw Paw bought him for you and Michael.
Who's ready to ride a horse?
We are.
I want to go searching for artifacts.
Well, I can't wait to hear what you discover.
The power of faith had just begun to take us places.
Yeah!
And a new life of adventure for all of us.
And we are back on the Bro Code Community Spotlight with Greg Allan Martin. Sir, it is an honor to have you on our platform. I'm excited for what we just saw coming from the clip in regards to Shadrach, a new series that's coming out on Pure Flix. It's the app where individuals can see it. It'll be streamed on the Roku network. You may see Roku popping up in the background here. But Sean McNamara, I believe, is the director of this film, correct?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. And he is the director behind a lot of Hollywood's most beloved family movies. And I can tell you, I have a young child. He's going to be 2. And I need to find something a little bit more wholesome than Bad Boys for Life and Deadpool versus. I get criticized quite often in regards to what I play in front of him. So I have to be a little bit more cognizant now that he can. And so from what I understand, I've seen a few clips. I'm waiting to watch the whole thing in its entirety on this app. But Shadrach, it follows the story of a family whose lives have changed when they encounter a majestic horse. They move from the city to the country, and you, as I understand, are playing the character of Paw Paw, right?
Right.
Now, we're going to get into all things Shadrach, but I still need to understand a little bit more about Greg and what initially inspired you to even get into acting in the first place.
Well, as I said before, I started doing it when I was a kid. There's just something about telling stories in a way that can move people, that can teach people. And that was especially true. The theater company I was talking about, the Actors Co-op, we were a Christian theater company, but we didn't do Christian plays. We were a church thing. We did these great, beautiful plays like To Kill a Mockingbird. And the ability to be part of that kind of storytelling and to give life and voice to great writing and great words and great characters was something that has just always spoken to me deeply.
Yeah. Now, you've played a wide variety of great characters. I was introduced to you more formally from your role as the coach on Madden 18, telling me all over and over that I'm a long shot to make the team. But you've been a judge, you've been a lawyer, you've been a cancer survivor. What was different about this role, and what inspired you to even want to take this on?
Oh my, I have never, outside of probably Atticus Finch on stage and getting to play Don Quixote and Man of La Mancha on stage. I've never had a TV and film role that I felt spoke to me this deeply, and for so many reasons. Southerner, even though I didn't grow up on a rancher farm, but he's a strong patriarch of a family and a grandfather. It took me a while to get over the fact that I was now old enough to play a character named Paw Paw. But once I got past that, I have 2 boys. I'm not a grandfather yet. So I was really drawn to the multi-generational aspect of this show. As you said, it's for a set of circumstances. Paw Paw and Graham's kids, they are living in the big city with their 2 kids. Something happens where he loses his business and they have to move to the country and live with the grandparents. And everything is now changed in all of their lives. The kids, you can imagine a 12-year-old girl going away from her home and her school and her friends, going to this place. In fact, when the first episode, when she gets there, she goes, "There's no cell service." So completely disrupted. And the parents, now the dad's lost his job, and the grandparents who are settled in their lives, now you've got 4 other family members living in the same household. So it's all about change. We all go through change in life. And it's how do you adapt to that change? How do you not just survive, but how do you thrive in the midst of that? And how do you grow together as a family?
Look what the cat drug in. Guess that thing runs after all.
You can see with your own eyes it's in mint condition.
Come to show off?
To make a deal.
About what?
I want the horse.
What makes you think he's for sale?
You ever ride a 1947 Harley-Davidson Flathead? They dominated motorcycle racing for 30 years. They used these bikes to defend our country in the Second World War.
Is that right?
They're fast, tough, and reliable as the day is long. I'd ride her to California tomorrow if the opportunity presented. I've kept this bike in perfect condition.
You're some kind of motorcycle mechanic?
Industrial machinist.
Oh, wow, Greg, we just saw a pretty cool clip of how you found and purchased the horse that later became known as Shadrach. I'm curious, how often have you worked with horses in film, and what's your experience with horses in general? Are you a equestrian expert?
No, I am not. And that's one of the things that was really fun with this film, was getting a chance to work with these horses. They are such amazing creatures. I didn't have horses, didn't ride them much growing up, on occasion, but we didn't have them. We're much more into, like I said, sports. And the trainer of this particular horse, Shadrach, he really reminded me of Clint Eastwood. He looked like him, he talked like him, and he knew.
If you had to describe Paw Paw in 3 words, what would those be?
Strong, caring, and mentor.
No, as part of the training, I imagine you immerse yourself into any role that you play. How long did it take you to get the hang of riding a horse and or a motorcycle for that? Because
it's funny you mentioned the motorcycle, because there's a scene where I'm riding down the highway and I come into this farm and then I pull up and stop. And so my son, whose mother always said, "You will never set foot on one of those donor bikes." He texted me and he goes, "Hey, well, how come we didn't get a motorcycle? How come you didn't teach us?" And I said, "Well, that was a stunt man for most of that." But I did get to ride the horse some, and Ed Dabney was the owner of the horse. And I want to point out, you won't know this by watching it, and it's not giving anything away, but there are actually 2 horses. They were cousins, and they looked almost identical, but they had different personalities, of course. And so one was a little bit more high-spirited, so they would use whichever horse made sense for whichever scene, the way it was written. So it was great fun getting to spend time with those horses.
So you had your own Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen of horses on the screen.
Yes. Wish I'd thought about that at the time. I could have used that.
How is that working with an animal as an actor, just in terms of not getting kicked in the face or not getting pooped on the scene at the wrong moment? Like, how difficult is it to work with an animal on set?
Well, you do have to, you have to be aware. And Ed and his crew, they're very, very conscious of safety, of course, making sure you were where you were supposed to be and doing the things that a horse is familiar with their trainers doing. So there was a good bit of training about where and how to touch the horse, to put on a bridle, to put on the saddle, all those kind of things. And actually, Livy Birch, who plays the young Anna, who is just a marvelous actress, she's the one who had to do most of the writing. And it was great to see the way she truly did. What you see on screen with her bonding with that horse, that happened in real life.
Now that's good to know. Watching the show, there's certain themes that appear and reappear as you go through that makes this TV series special. Themes like faith, bravery, trust, forgiveness, fear. How has, well, let me put it this way. Working with not just Livy, but all of the actors, were there any memorable moments that came from, them recognizing things in themselves as the episodes kind of dived into some of these more deep topics?
I think we were all touched by the script. Holly Goldberg Sloan is the creator and the writer. She just put so much in there that is not, it sounds cliche to say it's encouraging, uplifting, that sort of thing, but it's true. And it was just very moving to be a part of that, and to, especially in this day and age when there's so much division and so much anger, to see a family dealing with adversity and coming together. And I don't want to make it sound like this is all sweet and saccharine. They go through, as you mentioned earlier, there's some danger in there. There's some peril. Every character in there shows their true colors. They get caught up in some greed aspects of things. So they deal with all of that. So I think we all really responded to the words of Holly Goldberg Sloan.
Now, you spoke to Livy, one of the actors, and I asked the question, how was it working with horses? Now, this isn't your first foray working with child actors, but can you tell me a little bit more about your experience working with both of the child actors on set?
Right. Well, Livy was just a pure professional. You watch this, and she has to carry the show, and she does. And a lot of the show is voiceover that she's doing, and she's just wonderful. She's just so charming and engaging and smart. But I also want to focus on the actor who plays her brother. Cale Farron plays Michael, her younger brother. Now, Cale, and this was written into the script, and to me, it's one of the most heartwarming and even magical things about the script. Cale in real life has a disease called Fanconi. Fanconi anemia is a rare genetic blood disorder that affects the bone marrow, and it makes those who suffer for it more susceptible to leukemia and other forms of cancer, and the lifespan is not great. And it's just part of the story. They come into this, move to the country, and there he is, and he's got this disability. So they're thrust into the situation, but they've been dealing with adversity his whole life. But it's just part of the story. And Michael, the character of Michael, is just, he's so light and he's so bright and he's got this big grin. And in real life, that's who Cale is. And he's this funny kid with this wicked sense of humor. But one of the hallmarks of it is that those who suffer from it, they don't have any thumbs. Their hands are turned inwards. That's the physical deformity that goes along with it. But it's just part of the story. He ends up riding a horse. He ends up going to school with Anna, and it's all acceptance, which is a huge part of the story, is just the acceptance that has to exhibit towards each other and the family.
Yeah, that's a powerful image to see. The exuberance and joy that I saw just in that clip alone really makes me want to watch it more and get deep into the series, which I hope there's more than one season of this coming as well. But we'll fingers crossed on that one. Now, would you say that this has been one of your more challenging roles? Now, I know you're a cancer survivor. I know you a redneck boat owner in Ozark. Like, how does this compare just from the experience of it all?
I wouldn't say it was more challenging, because this set was so warm and so inviting. And Sean McNamara is this wonderful director. And by the way, he's got his movie Reagan that I think is coming out later this month. So everybody make sure you go watch that. But he was just such an easy director to work with, as were the other directors, who Elizabeth Thomas and David Brookwell. And the cast was just so great. The crew was, this sounds cliche, but it really was true. And here's one thing about it. From the day I got there, when I first went on the set, so much of it is set in this farmhouse that the owners of this farmhouse, who were there the entire time, and they just let us take over their house for 6 weeks. But I walked into this house the first time, and I remember just looking around and just going, wow, I had no idea they had so much money to invest in this project, because look what they've done with this house. Every inch of it, every corner of it, every knickknack and little crocheted things and spiritual sayings and the furniture, everything was just so perfect. And I mentioned that to a crew, and they went, we found it that way. And so that just set the tone. They and their family who live there, and they've got hundreds of acres in this extended farm that the other family members live. So it was a very easy production from that standpoint. I'm sure it was a lot more difficult for the director and the people who had to do a lot of the grunt work, but for me, it was just a joy.
Yeah. Well, when you're not acting, where do you find yourself? Like, what are your hobbies or interests? You made mention of being on the farm, and are you a farmer by nature? How did that play to your?
I grew up in the big city in Arkansas. I grew up in Little Rock, so did not grow up on a farm. But as I mentioned before, athletics. So that's still a huge part of my life. Spent a lot of time playing tennis and golf and the new craze, pickleball, and working out and that sort of thing. But I'm also trying to find ways to give back now that I'm retired. I don't know if we mentioned that, but I retired a couple of years ago from the DA's office. So we go on Sunday afternoons to a local retirement home here and sing hymns. So that's a gorgeous voice. So that's something we love doing. And we actually split our time between here and in Nashville because we both have ties to the South and to Vanderbilt. So we wanted to have a place in Nashville as well. But I hooked up just recently, the last time we were there, with a guy named Rudy Kalis, who's been a long-time, very well-known television and sports commentator in the Nashville area for like 40 years. But he retired, and the way God works these things, I've long been wanting to, because of my background in criminal law and because of my beliefs as a Christian, to get involved in prison ministry. So Rudy, when he retired, started a prison ministry at a maximum security prison just outside of Nashville. And I located Rudy. I called him up and I said, Rudy, I want to be a part of this. So I've gone with him to the prison a little bit with as part of his prison ministry. And it's an amazing thing. Although Rudy told me, he said, when he knew I was coming, he told the guys that he meets with, these 40 guys that he meets with, he goes, we got a guy coming next week, and he told him about me. And the fact that I was a DA, he could just see there was a little bit of unease in the room. So I had to overcome that. And guys, let me explain why I'm here. But that's been a powerful thing for me.
Now, you've spoken about your faith. You talked just a second ago in regards to the work with the prison ministry. I can't help but think of the title, Shadrach. It harkens to, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, three individuals thrown in the fire in the book of Daniel. I assume that there's some religious aspects that the show kind of plays towards. Can you talk a little bit more about how that shows itself within the film and kind of where the naming convention of Shadrach even spawned from?
Sure. Well, in general terms, one thing about this show is, I guess you could call it a faith-based show, but it is very gentle in that respect. It doesn't beat you over the head with it. It's not preachy, nothing like that. It's just a part of who they are. They go to church on Sundays, they pray before meals, and there are times when characters are going through difficult times when they go, let's pray about that. So it's just a very subtle, but it's an undercurrent of who they are. But in terms of Shadrach, the little girl moves to the city moves from the city to the country, doesn't want to be there, is very resistant. And they go to church the first Sunday, and there is a wonderful pastor there, Robert Amaya plays it, who's doing a sermon on Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And not Libby, but the character, Anna's sort of half listening. And when she encounters this horse, which is kind of magical the way that happens, not literally, but the way the horse sort of finds Anna. She bonds with that horse immediately, and something triggers in her mind when her Paw Paw says, or her father says, what are we going to name it? She goes, Shadrach. So she's the one who names the horse. And there's definitely some symbolism in that, because to me, the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they won't bow down to an unknown God. They remain true to their faith, and they're rescued. So to me, the analogy of that to what happens in the show Shadrach is what happens when you trust God for an unknown future. And that's what all the characters do. So it's a great name for a show.
And so as I begin to wrap here, I'm curious, what's next for you? What's next for Greg Allan Martin? Is there a role, a genre that you haven't explored yet that you'd like to in the future?
Well, obviously, I hope there's a season 2 of this. I would love to do more faith-based content, because one of the great things now that Hollywood's finally, over the last few years, been waking up to the fact that there's an audience. There's a big audience for
absolutely
films and TV shows that speak to who people are, who have these kind of values. And you see it happening from, Jesus Revolution to The Chosen to, Unsung Heroes, Unlikely Angel. There's just all sorts of good content that's coming forth. So I'd love to be part of that, because as an actor, you want to be able to do things that speak to your heart and can minister to other people as well. So I'm open to whatever God has in store for me. I learned a long time ago that old adage that if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Right. Well, how can people stay in touch with you as you move in this journey? Your socials, there's a website, and how can people keep up with the series?
Well, check out the series. It's on Great American Pure Flix, and you can find it just by going to pureflix.com and subscribing. They even have a free 7-day trial if you just want to check us out, because not only will you find Shadrach there, but tons of great content that's all family oriented and faith-based and good for the whole family. And I say that you often hear that, good for the whole family, but this one, because you've got kids, you've got parents, you've got grandparents. So it really does speak to the whole family. So you can find the show that way, and I sure hope you do. And in terms of myself, I'm kind of an old guy, so I'm just now getting the social media thing. Just started a Instagram at Greg Allan Martin. So I'm out there.
Let me find you on TikTok doing dances, Greg.
I said, I'll have to come up with the Shadrach dance. I'll have to think about pawing the ground, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I really do appreciate you taking time to meet with us and tell us a lot more about the show, what we can expect and yourself. Until next time, this is Bro Smith signing off on the Bro Code Community Spotlight. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, guys.
Greg, man, I too was raised by very strong grandparents. And one of the things that they said, Greg, is that words matter, man. And we know that to be the truth. Words have power. Here on the show, it's a big deal. And I'm curious, before the show, we asked you, like, what's one word you would use to describe yourself? Talk to us more about what that word is and why you chose it.
Probably beloved. That doesn't sound very humble, but it's true, because when you believe in Jesus, that's who you are. You are beloved. God has bestowed his love on us, irrespective of anything that I've ever done or whether I deserve it or not. He loves me, and that affects everything about the way I see myself, the way I see the world, the way I recognize that everything that I have been given is only because of his grace. And that
I'm curious, words matter. When you hear that phrase, the bro code or the code, what thoughts come to mind, man? Is what set of values or standards, what code do you live by?
Wow. I think if I had to pick one word to go with that, it would maybe be the Micah code, because my favorite verse in the Bible is Micah 6:8. What does the Lord require of you but to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God? Do I do that all the time? Am I perfect in that? Far, far from it. Like Paul, I'm chief among sinners, but that is the code that I strive for.